Love Janessa is the true crime podcast from the BBC World Service and CBC Podcasts, investigating the murky world of online romance scams.
She was trying to get me to send her money.
Catch up with the whole series now. Search for Love Janessa wherever you found this podcast.
You win their hearts, you win their wallets.
This is The Documentary from the BBC World Service. I'm TV producer Jules Hussey.
And I'm Jordan Hogg. I've been a TV drama director for 15 years. And in all that time, on all these different shows, I've never once come across another disabled director. Whilst 1 in 6 of the world's population has a disability, disability isn't represented in many industries and very rarely in the people making film and TV. Not just the actors, but all the hundreds of people that work behind the scenes to get things from page to screen. The script writers, editors, runners, sound designers. But we're on a mission to change that.
Jordan Hogg, how are you?
Jules Hussey, how are you?
It's like over a year since we worked together on
Ralph and Katie.
Ralph and Katie, ITV Studios for BBC One. A groundbreaking show with 2 learning disabled leads with Down syndrome, a physically disabled director. Is it okay to describe you like that?
You can describe me any which way you like, boss.
And I think a great partnership, if I'm allowed to say so, of us both and a fantastic team that we work with.
Definitely.
And I want to thank you for bringing me on this journey with you. It's always an honour to be at the table and fighting the fight and showing people how easy it can be to change the world in terms of disability representation in television.
I think when we started on Ralph and Katie, that was our mantra, to change the world, to be a better place for everybody. We're kind of leading the way over here, but I think we need to change the world and get out there and show everybody that what can be done with a little bit of thought and a little bit of effort for everybody.
And we're going to meet some people that we've known for years and some people we met on Ralph and Katie and just look at how different organisations and different productions are doing it differently, or more importantly, doing it right.
Hello! Hi, and so lovely to be here. Welcome to the first ever TAP Live.
But who is doing it right? Who are the ones making those changes to create a truly inclusive industry? I'm in London at an event by the TV Access Project, bringing together the UK's main broadcasters and streamers alongside production companies and disability organisations, all working together to make the British TV industry open to everybody, including deaf, disabled and or neurodivergent creatives.
Hi, my name's Tanya Moti and I'm the co-lead of the TV Access Project. It's a coming together of 10 broadcasters and streamers who all understand that there's a real problem with not having the right disability access to encourage and allow disabled people to thrive in the industry. I think one of the biggest achievements this year has been getting everybody to sign up to guidance for people in the industry about how to actually approach disability. The 2 things we're really clear on is that anything that we come up with is co-creation between powerful people in the industry and disabled people who know what they need, and that everything that we come up with is solutions based. We now need to make sure that we get all of the production companies, all of the suppliers, all the other people working in the industry to come together to make this happen.
By 2030, the TV Access Project aims to bring full inclusion to the industry across the UK. One of the people working to make that happen is Dan.
My name is Dan Edge. I am an access coordinator working mostly independently but with various organisations in the past. I became involved in TAP because Nate sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, Dan, will you come and help us, bring your knowledge, bring your experience and tell us how we can shape this role and how we can get more deaf and disabled people involved in all different parts of TV, making sure their access requirements are met.
Being an access coordinator means Dan leads on finding accessible solutions and adjustments for all cast and crew on a TV production. This could mean checking for ramps or lifts for wheelchair users, booking sign language interpreters, or checking that costumes are suitable.
I think TAP's achieved something very special in the fact that it's got all the streamers, all the broadcasters, all the content makers in the room with a bunch of disabled voices, and they actually seem to be listening and doing things constructively and moving forward, which is great.
Seeing the work that the TV Access Project is doing in the UK gives me hope that the right people are coming together to make permanent change. And they're not alone. DANC, or the Disabled Artists Networking Community, supported us in creating a more inclusive set for TV drama Ralph and Katie.
I'm Lawrence Clark. I'm a screenwriter. I'm the chair of Triple C DANC.
I'm Shirley Houston. I am a disabled actor and I am co-creative lead at Triple C DANC, and I am also the founder of Triple C.
Triple C and DANC are run by a group of people with a wealth of experience in TV, film and theatre. They have first-hand knowledge of the access problems the industry has. They bring disabled creatives together to have a louder voice in shaping change and, importantly, support change with a solution-based ethos.
I suppose if we go back to the beginning, the 5 founder members, we had a really great time sort of throwing everything around and came up with this concept of let's bring in the industry to have the conversations with the industry who can make the key changes to the blocks to the employment.
And the thing that I think is fantastic that you guys and deaf and disabled people in TV do is networking. The amount of times I can reach out to you and say, I need a trainee. I want a disabled trainee, DD&A trainee. You know, I think that ability you've got to put people in touch and to help people who say, I know, the usual, we don't know where to find them. And you've placed some people on some great jobs over the last few years.
That was the key behind DANC, was the don't know where to find us, because it was like, actually, we all as individuals have heard that. So it's like, actually, the solution to that is bring us all together, have one central resource where you know where to find us. So pre-lockdown, we were 400 and something, weren't we? We're now 1,700 DDN creatives receive our newsletter of opportunities every Friday and our in-house stuff on a Monday. So we've run probably over 400 webinars and masterclasses online now.
So if you each could give just easy tips for a production, what were the common sense things each that you would say to a production? All you need to do is this.
Ask everybody whether they have any access requirements, and then go about making sure that you put steps in place to make those adjustments and meet those requirements.
In this weird and wonderful industry, you're always looking out for all-round good eggs. And one of those confirmed good eggs is actress Rachel Shenton. Way back in the day, in about 2012, I worked with Rachel on a British TV show called Hollyoaks. And a few years later, I was so excited and so proud to see Rachel on the stage in Hollywood collecting an Oscar for the best short film, The Silent Child. We're working on another TV show right now, so, between me, you and Rachel, we snuck out for 5 minutes between takes to talk about winning a real-life Oscar and her work with the deaf community.
Alright, thanks guys, quick take please. Turn on that.
I'm very proud of what the film did. We played in Parliament, United Nations Conference, the first ever Global Disability Summit, as well as primary schools all over the UK, and we certainly felt like we contributed to the national conversation around the importance of sign language.
So what's Hear Art and what work are you doing there?
Hear Art is a little non-profit that myself and a woman called Cindy Sasha, who's actually from a fashion background, set up in lockdown. I think we can sometimes, representation can become quite narrow, and we don't widen it. Actually, on screen, we need to see a reflection of the real world that we live in. With Hear Art, what we commit to 50% deaf, 50% hearing cast and crew, because a lot of the time, in fact, most of the time, I'm going to say all the time, it's the hearing people that need educating. I think at the moment, people are very scared of, can I say that? Can I do that? And actually what ends up happening is they don't do anything.
Yeah.
And so we've created at Hear Art a completely safe space. You can ask any question. Don't worry about getting it wrong. Let's have that conversation. Let's remove all the awkwardness and let's try and work together and create these things. So these projects that we create are committed to 50% deaf, 50% hearing. So within our company, deaf directors work with hearing producers, and often that hearing producer, it's the first time they've even come into contact with a deaf person. And that in itself is an education. It's about looking at your own project and your own circle and going, how can I affect this? And I think if everybody did that, then the splodge of jam would spread. So, for example, with Here, when we create projects, we don't have walkie-talkies on set. It's a really simple change.
Yep.
And at first, people were like, the hearing creatives are like, what?
Yep.
We don't do the set without a walkie, what will we do? And we got by.
Yeah.
And actually, it was a really calm set.
Yep.
We all learned basic sign language, and it was easy to pick up and actually fun.
Not using walkie-talkies is a great example of adapting to people's access needs. Also on Ralph and Katie, we did something called mirroring, where we do a performance of our scene for our lead actors and they do it back. Small things like that just work. Right, Jordan, this is a really difficult task for both of us, but we should try and remain humble, because this is a programme featuring not one, but 2 Oscar winners. In 2023, James Martin received the Academy Award for Floodlight Pictures, Best Short Film, An Irish Goodbye. For me, this was a game changer. It felt like the world might actually be listening, so I couldn't wait to meet the man in question.
James Martin, and yes, I'm an Oscar winner.
Any other awards?
We won a BAFTA as one, and then the Oscar, and then a NIFTA. It's one of those films. It's really funny, it's really nice, the story, the nice bonding with the brother.
Well, Auntie Margaret's cooking's better than mine, so you'll be grand.
I told you, I'm not going to Auntie Margaret's.
It's not up for debating.
I'm not debating, I'm telling you. I'm staying here to look after the farm.
An Irish Goodbye is the story of 2 brothers in Northern Ireland grappling with their mum's death. It's a beautiful film. One of the things that excited me about it is that James's Down syndrome is incidental to the plot. It's about him and his brother. My brother has learning disabilities, and seeing that family dynamic explored on screen was magic.
Listen, I always say to people, never judge a book by its cover. Because when you have that special bond with a brother, it's that connection of not just that special bond, but you see, when you act together, it's just amazing, really. I got into theatre acting for over 16 years now. I was actually through a friend of mine, Walsh Stewart, and he has Down syndrome too. And we only about 3 weeks apart, and he said to me about this drama group up the road, and I'm thinking, I'll give this a go. Well, I tell you something now, it's just nice to be well known, not just winning so many awards, but I'm the first person with Down syndrome can win 3 awards. One is the BAFTA, an Oscar, and NIFTA in 1 year, and I think that's very incredible news level for Northern Ireland. People with any disabilities will come up to me and say, "You've inspired me so much," and I think that's really lovely. I would just say to them, if we do have a disability, if anybody is out there, just follow your dreams.
James's talent and passion is getting the recognition he deserves in the UK. But what's happening elsewhere? Last year I was lucky enough to head over to LA to meet my agent over there. That's right, Jules, I've got an LA agent. Hollywood, baby. And I was astonished at how little progress had been made over there. It's Hollywood, for crying out loud. So why isn't it caught up with representation on and off the screen? Well, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Our destination, of course, is Los Angeles, and our flight time today is 9.5 hours. Sorry, 10.5 hours. The progress of the flight may monitor.
We're here on Venice Beach, where countless film scenes have been shot. It feels like we're walking into a shiny Hollywood set, Jordan.
But we're not here for the scenery, Jules. We're here to ask questions and find out why we're not getting what we need from Hollywood in terms of representation and who's doing something about it.
My name is Richie Siegel. I'm one of the co-founders and president of Inevitable Foundation.
I'm Marissa Torelli-Podevska, and I'm co-founder of Inevitable Foundation with Richie.
We just felt like you needed to go back to the beginning of the storytelling process. If you care about, representation for actors or on-screen screen characters, etc. Like, you have to start with who really creates the story. And there was not an organization that had dedicated programs for disabled writers, and of course was co-founded by a disabled writer. And I think even a lot of Marissa's experience applying for other programs and fellowships really informed when we started.
What do you think we need to implement in our industry to change the world for the better?
Normalize asking what people need, and it's not that hard, and people will tell you exactly what they need. I think that's just not normalized right now, so that a lot of disabled people show up to work and they feel uncomfortable asking for what they need, or it feels like they're asking for a favor, or it's a luxury. But if we are able to just make that something that all employers just ask right off the bat, it saves everyone a lot of time.
We wanted to figure out, how do we disprove this myth that these are expensive and complicated? We worked with a few different film and television accountants and put all these financial models and budgets together. And the whole point was to say, what would it look like if you had a 25% disabled crew, a 50% disabled crew, a 100% disabled crew? And we did all this modeling and kind of normalized it by disability and all these things. And I think the end result was something around the lines of, if you had a 100% disabled crew on a major studio project, it would increase the budget by 3%.
Change has been made, and it's only by having disabled crew as part of the process that we will start to really see representation on our screens.
And some productions are doing it really well.
Jordan, we're here. We've come to a lovely cafe in Venice, and we're here to meet
one of my icons, one of my heroes, the wonderful Ken Olin, who's, I think, one of the greatest TV directors of our time.
Would you agree with that, Ken?
I don't think he even said that we're friends. We got to know each other over Zoom during the pandemic, and then we became friends. I admire his work as well.
Ken Olin, who is an actor, director, and producer, was part of the very well-received Disney series This Is Us. It's full of brilliant examples of representation done right.
It's just worth it. Just the notion of making progress and a representation of the diversity of experiences. It's just worth it. There are some very, very good actors that have disabilities. Some that they were born with and some that have occurred in their life after the time. And that's okay, so let's accept it and keep trying to create more and more and more representations in our human dramas of people that are affected by these things. And then it's pretty easy. I mean, it's really not difficult. I've grown up my entire career as a director, dealing with accommodating the whims, desires, entitlements of all sorts of people, and yet, wait a minute, you're asking me to now take on people with disabilities, so building a ramp is somehow a bigger deal than making sure the entire family is there, or the person has this day off and this day up, and they want to fly here. But the point of that, though, is you don't want it to just be, well, you have to accommodate the needs of people that are disabled. It shouldn't be either or. It would be wonderful to get to a point where you don't even have to think about it, whether the person's disabled or not disabled, and you're casting a disabled character the same way that if you're casting someone who isn't a disabled character and someone who's disabled is great for the part. I mean, that would be a wonderful thing, but we're not there yet. The thing I can offer, because I'm in a position to offer opportunities, would be just to remain mindful of the opportunities that people like myself have to create and to support people with disabilities getting in the door and having jobs.
Ken's work shows it's everyone's job to get this stuff right. It's not just down to disabled people shouting loud enough to be heard. Honestly, we shouldn't have to fight our way into every single job we do. It's so tiring. I wanted to explore what the barriers were to getting more representation on screen. So I met with my mate Kurt Yeager. Kurt is another sickeningly talented individual, acting in shows like Sons of Anarchy and NCIS Hawaii, as well as directing. He's also very vocal about disability representation in TV and film, having lived as both a non-disabled and disabled actor.
Before being disabled, I didn't understand how everyone else treated you. Not have places accessible when I had to be in a wheelchair for over a year. But the biggest thing that's still the most brutal to me, because it still happens to me, is how much people think you can't do, and how their attitude just perpetually stomps on every kind of forward progressive momentum you have in this industry. Everyone like that I talk to who's a writer, unless they have a friend who's a wheelchair user, they think the wheelchair is a character trait when it's just a mode of transportation. So if they think that about something so obvious, then what do they think about a leg or cerebral palsy? It has to be the totality of that person's existence. To me, like, missing a leg is the least interesting thing about me.
So have you noticed any change or shift in how disabled people are utilised in our industry?
I've seen a little bit of change. It's really increased a modicum of where it should be. So it's like saying you're going to run a mile and you took 3 steps. So yeah, relatively it's doubled, but the accomplishment, since it's so bad, it's really inconsequential. What's interesting is my disability is, I wear pants and all of a sudden I'm able-bodied. I am treated as a man walking into the room unless I'm wearing shorts, and then I'm treated as a disabled guy walking into a room, and they are starkly different. Yeah. And so because I'm still able to do that, I think that I have like a increased like sensitivity to it. And so I see it happening to all of my friends, and that makes me way more want to fix it. For me, because I can play able-bodied, I think I get more opportunities.
I think a lot of disabled kids dream about being in our industry. Now, what can we do to help them achieve those dreams?
For me, what people can do, it should be search out everyone with a disability that's an actor and follow them, and make every single one of your friends follow them, so that you have at least a modicum of power. If you're not going to be given the opportunities because you have to go to your agent, and the agent has to go to casting, and casting has to go to the writer, director, producer, and the producer has to go to the studio, and the studio has to ask the money. So if you don't have enough power to justify the money, then you're really not going to get the opportunities that another actor's got. You can think about how disability is valuable instead of everyone thinking it as like a invaluable resource. I became a better human because of it. I became more honest with myself. I am nicer to other people. Everyone says, well, would you want your leg back? And I say, do I get to keep my experiences? Because if I don't get to keep my experiences, I don't want my leg. And people can't wrap their head about it. I'm like, you don't understand. Losing my leg was the best thing to happen to me. It gave me a level of perspective that I would have never got any other way. Like, I'm still exactly me, and then a whole lot more.
I've said this statistic earlier, but it bears repeating. 1 in 6 across the globe has a disability. Imagine if 1 in 6 people you saw on screen, other directors, writers, producers, casting directors, commissioners, were disabled. Everything would look very, very different. And all we're asking is that we're included in an industry that's based on storytelling. Tell our stories. Let us tell the stories. Being a director isn't what I am, it's who I am. I don't know how to do anything else. I'm not good at anything else. And if I didn't get these opportunities earlier in my career, I don't know who I would have become or where I would have ended up.
And I come away knowing that we're not the only ones who are committed to changing the world. There's such a lot being done. There's a lot of solutions on the table, and people are saying, we're ready. So I have hope that we're moving towards a world that is much more inclusive for deaf, disabled, and neurodivergent people. And that all of us will be seeing that everywhere, on the street, on the screen, and in the credits, and a lot more regularly. Until then, we'll just crack on, won't we, Jordan?
You've got it, boss. You've been listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service.
Directing Disability was produced by Audio Always.
Wait, so you said you genetically engineered yourself?
I put a foreign piece of DNA inside my cells.
Wow!
Crowd Science, the podcast for those with a thirst for knowledge and an appetite for explanation.
My question is, how do we navigate in space?
Each week we take your science questions and go in search of the answers.
Just hold on to your hats.
That is incredibly clever.
That's Crowd Science from the BBC World Service. Just search for Crowd Science wherever you found this podcast.